You know, people thought I was crazy with all the time I spent talking about Venezuela. I've been doing it since we launched this program and for a long time on radio. Now, there's chaos in the streets in Venezuela. People in distress. And a government that's run completely amok. This pretty much describes the situation going on in Venezuela right now. President Nicolas Maduro has responded to the waves of protests across the country by doing what he does best. Using the military to crack down on the freedoms and opposition of the people. Spontaneous street demonstrations are now forbidden. Public services have been shut down. There's been threats against the media. And the government has launched an effort to capture the leader of the opposition movement. Despite the widespread protests, President Maduro, who took office just about a year ago, has said he will not be stepping down from power. And a lot of this chaos stems from the Venezuelan government trying to seize control of industries and wholesale sectors of the economy, even the auto industry. Toyota just announced it will halt production of cars in the country because of policies that prevent the company from importing essential products. Maduro also set a ceiling for new car prices. Basically, there's no way for Toyota to do business in Venezuela. This is a perfect example of progressive government getting out of control, and it feels like Maduro can't do much to stop it. I mean, unlike his predecessor, Chavez, Hugo Chavez, Maduro doesn't really have the widespread support or the charisma to convince people that his policies are eventually going to pan out. Here to discuss this is Joel Frewa from the Tea Party News Network and Elio Aponte, president of the Organization of Venezuelans in Exile. Elio, I'm going to go right to you on this one. You've got massive inflation. You've got price controls on raw materials and price fixing in the automobile market. And Toyota says, we can't do this anymore. And Maduro thinks this is a war against him.
Yes, that's basically a smoke curtain. Maduro is claiming to have an economic war. He's saying that the United States is behind that economic war, and he wants that's a smoke curtain, not to show the real problems of Venezuela. That's basically it. He's not a legitimate president. He committed fraud in the elections last year, and unfortunately, the opposition has not been able to step him down, even though he committed the fraud. So he is following a socialist agenda coming from the Republic of Cuba. That's the real problem that we have in Venezuela. We have an invasion, and Maduro is simply a puppet of Castro and the G2 Cubans.
You know, Joel, they tried to shut down Twitter. These demonstrations are being led by students. I mean, almost sounds like something that would go on here in the United States, except their students apparently don't want more left-wing progressivism and socialism. And here you have Toyota saying, we can't sell cars in your country. It's not a war on you. You've started a war with us. I mean, it's fascinating to listen to Maduro sound a little bit paranoid and crazy.
No, you're absolutely right, Andrew. First of all, let me say, people may think you're crazy for talking about this, but I want to thank you in the name of all the Venezuelan people, because you've stuck on this and never stopped talking about it. So thank you for that. Second, you're absolutely right. Maduro thinks it's a war on him, not just from Toyota and what he calls the capitalist pigs, but from the United States. I think we all know Barack Obama's not that clever, so there's no foundation there whatsoever. And Toyota, they're just trying to do business. They're looking out for their bottom line, as any good company would.
You know, Elio, the people are experiencing shortages in basic food supplies. And, of course, that's going to lead to civil unrest. But when you look at the promise of the kind of government that Chavez was offering, at first it was great. There was generous welfare programs. They were, you know, seizing land and making food cheaper for the moment. They were taking some of the oil revenue, but little by little that stuff started to run out. So now Maduro is turning the government authoritarian against the people.
Yes, he doesn't have the charisma, not the leadership of Hugo Chavez. Maduro is simply a puppet of the Cubans, and he is running out of money. And really, that's a big problem in Venezuela. It cannot be sustained anymore, and that's why the people in the streets are protesting. It's not a protest of the opposition. It's the people of Venezuela and the students who are against him, against a system, a socialist system that is coming from the Republic of Cuba. So there is not too much time for Maduro. Maduro may try to convince the leader of the opposition, as you mentioned, Leopoldo Lopez, to have a dialogue, but that it would be a trap, because there is no dialogue possible with this kind of criminals.
You know, Joel, you and I met at the Republican convention, and we've talked at length on air and off the air about these things. When you've got a government price-fixing, seizing, when you start to see soldiers showing up at electronics stores to take toasters or microwave ovens, eventually the government is going to run out of things to seize and redistribute. Now you've got the people, a lot of people who might have voted for Chavez early on back in 1999, but this is starting to become a grim reality that when the government can't deliver on its promises, it becomes more violent. And this is the warning to everyone in this country.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I told a co-worker of mine that every policy of the Obama administration has a an older brother that lives in Venezuela. But Elio's absolutely right. You're finally seeing not just the middle class and upper classes in Venezuela, but the lower classes are starting to rise up. They are afraid for their lives. And mainly because there's no information whatsoever. Even about a year ago, you could still turn on the TV in Venezuela and get an opposition channel. Now you can't do that anymore. The last bastion of any objective reporting in Venezuela were the newspapers, and ironically enough, with all the shortages, they have no papers to print on. So, Andrew, this is a true story. My brother, who's still in Venezuela, is calling myself and my parents to find out what's going on, because they don't know.
You're talking to your brother about this, and you yourself are an Army veteran, so you've seen what combat looks like. Where do you see this going? I mean, is there a final evolution here?
I hope so. I think there's two ways this can go. If the opposition remains slightly fractured, as it has been over the past few months, then unfortunately I think it may fizzle out. But I think the more likely course is that the military is going to splinter as well. And you're going to see an evolution of this, much like you saw in Egypt or in Syria, where the military itself refuses to carry out the orders of what is largely seen as an illegitimate government.
Elio, let me get your reaction to that. The military, do you think it's going to continue enforcing the authoritarian policies, or do you think it's going to split?
Well, I believe that protest needs to continue. The protest needs to continue so that Maduro, the military forces that he has, are worn out. It is important the protest to continue because the majority of the people in the armed forces of Venezuela, they don't want Maduro. The only people in the military who are with Maduro are the chief of staff, are the main officers, I mean the generals. But the lower class military are not with Maduro. So protest needs to continue in order to cause an implosion, and in order for the military forces that are favorable for the freedom and the Republic of Venezuela, they can really take over the government. That's what we need. That's what is the solution right now. There is no electoral solution. There is no solution for elections or by a constitution, a change of constitution or reform or a recalling referendum. There is no way there can be a change of politics with the current electoral system controlled by the Cubans. The people of Venezuela have their future in their hands, and if they continue the protests, the military in any moment will start doing their job of securing independence and sovereignty of the country.
Real quick, Joel, I got less than 30 seconds. Yes or no? Enrique Capriles, you think he's got a chance next time?
No, I don't. I think his credibility has been damaged. Andrew, real quick.
Thank you, guys. I got to end it there. Thank you for joining me on the program. Elio and Joel, have you back next time. More Wilcow to the break.